even when I'm down. Got my head in the clouds and my feet on the ground. I got big dreams. Yeah, we got big dreams here at the Genius Lab. Thanks for being here today. This is number 34 of my podcast based on my new book, Release Your Shit and Reclaim Your Power. This is Toby Christensen, your self-empowerment trainer, and I am here to ask you about your core beliefs. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of a sticky one sometimes, because a lot of times we just go about life and we never think to define. Last podcast, I talked about core values, and then from core values, we determine our core beliefs. And you know, I got to tell you, most people, if I ask them, what are your 5 primary core beliefs, they can't say a thing. They look at me like I'm some kind of an alien. And so what I want to talk to you about today is getting clear with your core beliefs. Because if you understand what you believe, then you understand how you process the information from the world around you. Once you know how you process the information from the world around you, you know where your prejudice lies. You know where you twist outcomes, or you might want to see things in a certain way so that you get a certain benefit from them based on your beliefs. So anyway, it can be very powerful to be clear about these things. I've talked in other podcasts about my GeniusLab sessions, and you can find those at tobychristensen.com/the-GeniusLab, one word. And basically, you know, it's a course that we go through where we talk about your core values, your core beliefs, your mission, your goals, and your worldview. And it's important stuff. It's fundamental. It's foundational. And almost every leadership training course that I've ever been in or people I've worked with, it's not an issue that they discuss, yet it's at the core of everything. So think about it. This is deep and really powerful work. So let me ask you about this. What do you truly believe about yourself? Like, what do you truly believe? I'm not talking about like, oh, hell, I'm a nice guy, I'm blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, I'm a failure because I don't have a Maserati, or whatever your shit is, right? So what do you really believe about yourself? Do you believe you're good? Are you bad? Do you believe you're driven? Do you believe you're a naturally successful person? Are you smart? Here's one for you. Are you worthy? Oh, that's one that'll cook you for a while. Are you worthy to have what you think you want? Or if you get honest with yourself, do you really believe that you should have what you set your goals to acquire? Ooh, yeah. You wonder why you don't achieve your goals, because your goal, you can only rise to the level of your self-esteem. And if your self-esteem is in the toilet, whether you acknowledge it or not, a great way to find out where your self-esteem is look at your life. Okay? Look at your behavior. When you look into the mirror, do you like what you see? So what do you believe about yourself? Think about that. Cook on that for a while. Another thing is, what do you believe about others? Okay? Are people fundamentally honest, good-hearted, kind, selfless? Or are people fundamentally a pack of lying motherfuckers? You know, a bunch of greedy slobs that just want to take. Are they just takers? What do you believe about other people? Because what you truly believe about them will determine how you respond to them and how they react to you, because your core beliefs, you will primarily work to make your core beliefs come true. Okay? It's just like how the world works. Speaking of the world, let me ask you this. Do people fundamentally trustworthy and believable? Question mark? So anyway, so what about the world? Is the world a safe place? Is it a dangerous place? Is it all light and love? I met these people on Kauai that are like, oh, the world is just light and love. Or is it all dark and evil? You know, I mean, or is it a combination of both? Or Or certain religious fanatics or ethnic groups, do they work a certain way? You know, we see this all the time in movies and the media and so on and so forth. You know, oh, they're satanic or they're godly people, and then you find out they've molested a bunch of children. You know, I mean, just all kinds of weird shit. So, what do you believe? Most of how you respond to things are going to be set up around what you believe about certain things and about certain people. So what are, you know, here's where we get into interesting belief systems. Like, is there such a thing as right or wrong? You know, we get into some of this metaphysical stuff and there is no right, there is no wrong. Now, I will say I've worked with some people from West Africa that have a particular spiritual belief that there is no such thing as sin. Well, actually, there's one sin. And the one sin is gossip. And I thought this was really interesting. And I asked this Babalawa, that's what they call their priests, Babalawa. I asked Babalawa, I said, Baba, how is there only one sin? And how is gossip that sin? He said, well, anything that you do, we don't judge as being good or bad or sin or not sin. It's just when you make a decision to do something, you create a consequence for yourself. So if you, for example, cheat on your wife and she catches you and you have an agreement that you will not sleep with someone else, but you are, then you might lose all your money and your house and whatever when you get a divorce. Or she might, you know, cut your unit off or, you know, I mean, you know, whatever. But it's a consequence that you're creating by an action that you take. Okay? If you steal something from somebody and they don't like that you stole from them, there's a consequence. They might press charges, they might take it into their own hands, so on and so forth, but you've created that for yourself. So it's not a sin, it's just cause and effect, right? But when you gossip about someone, okay, when you gossip about someone, you're creating a consequence for them, okay, because people are going to look at them a certain way based on what you say. You're creating a consequence for them that they have no part of. Therefore, you are overstepping your bounds. If you want to create a consequence for yourself, that's fine. But it's a sin to create a consequence for someone else. And I thought that was a very interesting way of looking at the world and connecting to a belief system. So what are your core beliefs? What do you believe about yourself, first of all? Think about it. Good, bad, right, wrong. I mean, is there such a thing? Are you a person that is enjoyable? When you manifest things, is it about creating something for a greater good, or is it just for your own selfish ambition? Which I have no judgment on. I mean, I'm the last one that should be judging anybody, so I'm just off that deal. But be honest with yourself. And this is the thing that's important. This is what we do during the workshops. I've created a workshop around release your shit and reclaim your power. We work through this as a small group, and man, it's fucking powerful. And so we talk about stuff like, is there a sin? And most people who are from a religious, Western religious background, usually Christian, they have a thing, yes, there's sin and this is right, and we go right and wrong, and then we go by the 10 Commandments. And the 10 Commandments, though, are Old Testament, and apparently the New Testament, I mean, there's a whole thing there about whether the Old Testament still works, and so on and so forth. So we get into some very interesting conversations, and then, of course, you look at the fundamental prospect of original sin. And so this basically is a statement that defines Christianity, because you are born in original sin, so you are born sinful. So that's why they have infant baptism, because if a baby dies, it would go immediately to hell because it was born with the sin of Adam. Okay?
And then people start screaming. They go, God would never send a baby to hell. Well, then change your theology, because original sin says that we're born sinful, and which means we're fundamentally fucked up. Okay, and then in other places in the Bible it says that we're made in the image of God, but God isn't sin. So like it really gets confusing. So determine what you believe. Okay, and another thing that I think is really funny is applying a gender to this creator mastermind that people call God. Like God is a man, like Father, blah 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 blah, and you see that in Christianity, God has a gender. Then in some of the old goddess cultures, God was a woman. And then you get into some indigenous people and they don't even think about putting a gender to God. Like, how could the creator of the universe be one or the other? Are they both? Are they non-gender? I mean, who is God and what does it mean? Core beliefs are really important, and they're very important in the same way that core values are important. Everything that you do, every way that you respond, okay, is based on your core value. Okay, what is your guiding principle and your core belief? How do you see things through those guiding principles? Okay, so think about what your 5 core beliefs are. Like, what do you think about yourself? What do you think about other people? How do you see the world? How do you see God? How do you see your interaction with your family and interaction in business? Is it okay to embezzle money from your company, or is it okay to lie if it means that it benefits your family or prevents your harm from your family? But it's not okay to lie for personal gain, but it's okay to lie if you have to lie to protect yourself or your family. I mean, there's so many different options here to think about. But the bottom line is, the more clear you get on what you stand for, which are your core values, the more clear you get on what you believe, which are your core beliefs, what happens is then you begin to respond with clarity and consciousness. So the thing I want you to do before you listen to another podcast is think about what you believe. Get really clear and look at all the practical ways that you are applying it in your life. And if there are places in your life where you're contradicting your core values or your core beliefs, change the way you act or change the way you believe. Okay? Clarity brings power. And if we're going to release our shit, we got to be honest with ourselves. And if we're going to reclaim our power, we've got to create a clean slate and a good launching pad for it to launch from and go to. So that's your homework. Okay. Before your next podcast, think about your core beliefs. What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about others? What do you believe about the grand scheme of the universe? We'll call that God. And what are your physical actions based on in terms of your belief system? And what is your spiritual understanding or belief system based on your core beliefs? So think about your beliefs, keep looking up, always go for the positive, and make the world a better place. Keep looking up.